Hello and welcome again to the World History Report. I'm your host, Arthur, and today we give tribute to a man who played an important role in the history of our country. John Paul Stevens spent 35 years on the United States Supreme Court and was the second oldest and third longest serving justice ever to sit on the court. He passed away in Florida at 99 years of age on the 16th of July. He was known for his bow ties, being incredibly polite in his oral argument. As one advocate noted, he was often fatal, always kind, and proudly patriotic. But there's a part of Justice Stevens' background that is not so well known. Did you know that his top-secret work in the U.S. Navy during World War II at Pearl Harbor? This was an important part of his life, which I want to talk about here on our series dedicated to World War II veterans, called Lest We Forget. He became a Navy officer on December 6, 1941, just the day before the Japanese attack on Pearl Harbor. He spent most of the 4 years of his Navy service stationed at Pearl Harbor. He was even awarded the Bronze Star for the work that he did with his team to crack Japanese ciphers. When we think about code breaking and intercepting secret messages, we usually think of mathematicians. But Stevens, who majored in English literature, realized that his studies in philology had a lot in common with cryptology, intercepting enemy messages and using mathematical calculation to discover patterns. John Paul Stevens and his team of code-breaking cryptologists worked tirelessly through the Second World War to understand what the Japanese were up to and anticipate their next moves. His expertise was called traffic analysis, examining the source and destination of radio messages to help them understand the movement of Japanese ships. Robert Turner, one of the officers that Stevens worked with, remembers how passionate they were about their work and said, quote, "Given John's proclivity, you can get really excited about this stuff. It becomes very absorbing. You have to figure out these puzzles." Unquote. 2 days before his 23rd birthday, Stevens reviewed a message that became part of history. It was during his work shift that a message came in that their pilots had bagged a peacock and 2 sparrows. The peacock was a code name for Admiral Isoroku Yamamoto, commander of the entire Japanese fleet, the leader and planner of the Pearl Harbor attack and Japan's war in the Pacific. It was John Paul Stevens' team who deciphered the messages that led to the precision and success of this strike on the Japanese admiral's plane, flying close to Bougainville Island in the northern Solomon Sea. This single victory became known as the Yamamoto Shootdown and went down in history as a turning point in the war, the beginning of the end for Japan's military offensive. And now, 75 years later, Supreme Court Justice John Paul Stevens is laid to rest in Arlington National Cemetery, Section 5, just below the grave of President John F. Kennedy, with the cemetery's iconic eternal flame.